Welcome everyone to our discussion on China's political landscape and the intriguing perspective offered by Professor Daniel Bell. The idea that Beijing isn't out to rule the world, but is instead focused on a unique political meritocracy is simply
Yeah,
fascinating.
absolutely. It's eye-opening how the West tends to, see China in a simplistic democracy versus autocracy framework.
Right, and what really stands out is the notion that China's system isn't simply a failed replica of Western democracy. It's a layered structure with deep historical roots that prioritizes merit and performance over like mere plurality.
So, if I got it correctly, what we're essentially looking at is a political meritocracy that stands apart from our typical liberal democratic norms, right?
Exactly. It's not just about one uniform method. China employs a three-tiered system. At the grassroots, there are local elections that allow for community input. Then up the ladder, selection becomes more meritocratic as the stakes heighten.
Yeah, interesting. And at the top, the leadership, like the Politburo and of course Xi Jinping, plays a decisive role, doesn't it?
Yes, indeed. The top echelon is distinctly managed, but it's not merely authoritarian. It's designed to fuse historical administrative traditions with modern statecraft.
Right. But isn't there a debate on whether this top down control really reflects meritocracy or if it borders on autocracy?
That's a good question. While some critics might claim it's too centralized, the key argument here is that the system is pragmatic. It's tailored to deliver tangible outcomes, like economic progress, and that's one of its core strengths.
Yeah. Speaking of economic progress, wasn't there a point made about how this political approach actually fueled China's economic miracle?
Exactly. The system channels legitimacy through delivering material well being to its people. That focus on outcomes, like lifting millions out of poverty, contrasts sharply with the Western preoccupation with ideologically driven politics.
Right. It makes me think, isn't that also tied to what they refer to as a civilizational state? How China sees itself not so much as a missionary power, but as a keeper of its own cultural legacy?
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head. China's approach is less about exporting its model worldwide and more about preserving its cultural and historical uniqueness. It's like an orchestra. Every instrument plays its part to create harmony, not sameness.
Yeah, that's a vivid analogy. And when we talk about harmony, it's so interesting that the Chinese concept of harmony isn't about forcing everyone into the same mold, but rather finding balance.
Right, it's like each layer of society works differently. Local governance might be more participatory, while higher levels employ merit based strategies. This blend produces stability and, in turn, fosters growth.
Yet, there's a challenging aspect here. Balancing local input with centralized decision making can be tricky. Don't you think this tension might sometimes lead to missteps?
I get that concern. It's a valid critique that, for all its strengths, the system isn't free from internal challenges. However, Professor Bell argues that the usual term totalitarian misrepresents China. Instead of a monolithic ruler, there's a complex interplay of different mechanisms operating at various levels.
Yeah, that's really compelling. The label totalitarian seems so reductive in this context, ignoring the diverse and dynamic layers of governance at play.
Exactly. It's like trying to describe an entire ecosystem with one word. The interplay between local elections and centralized meritocratic principles makes it far more nuanced than our typical binary descriptions.
Certainly, and yet some critics worry that by focusing so much on efficiency and material progress, important issues like public opinion might be sidelined. What's your take on that?
I understand the concern. Although the system does emphasize performance, there is, in fact, an ongoing challenge of balancing unity with the need to listen to public sentiment. It's not perfect, but the idea is that varying selection methods at different tiers help mitigate that tension.
Yeah, so in a sense, the very structure of this three-tier system is designed to address potential disconnects between the government and the people at different levels.
That's exactly it. It's like a layered cake where each level has its own flavor and function. The lower tiers invite community input, while the upper echelons focus on strategic long term goals. This mix is what gives China its unique character in governance.
Right on. But wouldn't you say there's an inherent contradiction in mixing a sort of localized democracy with a centralized meritocracy? It sounds like reconciling two very different logics.
That's a perceptive point. At first glance, it may seem contradictory, but think of it like a relay race. Each segment, though different, contributes to the overall success. The diversity in methods is, in fact, a deliberate strategy to address varying levels of administrative challenges.
Yeah, I see that. It's almost like the Chinese system is pragmatic about governance. They use what works best at each level instead of adopting a one-size-fits-all approach.
Absolutely. And this pragmatism extends to their understanding of international role. Beijing's focus isn't on dominating the global stage, but rather on achieving internal stability and progress.
Right. That's a remarkable contrast to the prevailing narrative in the West, where China is often portrayed as having imperial ambitions.
Yes, and that's the crux of Professor Bell's argument. The focus on delivering tangible benefits, like economic growth and stability, underscores that Beijing's goals are inward looking. It challenges the simplistic portrayals we often hear.
I find it refreshing to see a more nuanced view. Instead of being pigeonholed as autocratic, China is being understood on its own terms, which, as you mentioned, is steeped in tradition and practical governance.
Exactly. And another interesting angle is the notion of harmony in Chinese society. Unlike the Western idea of forcing uniformity, harmony here embraces variety while maintaining order.
Right, exactly. It's like each segment of society plays a different role, yet all contribute to a collective balanced outcome. That really shifts how you think about political organization.
Yes, it does. And while there are valid criticisms, like concerns over potential human rights issues or the risks of centralization, the argument here is to understand these mechanisms not as inherently oppressive, but as tailored responses to China's historical context.
Yeah, that does put things into perspective. I mean, evaluating a system through the wrong lens can lead to misunderstandings.
Exactly. By forcing a binary frame on something so multifaceted, we miss the big picture. The dynamic between meritocracy and localized democracy is designed to work together for stability and progress.
Right. I guess the takeaway is to avoid simplifying entire governance systems into neat boxes like autocracy or democracy. It's all about context.
Absolutely. And in doing so, we open ourselves up to a richer, more nuanced understanding of how different societies operate. It's almost like comparing apples and oranges. You need to appreciate each fruit for its own qualities.
Yes, indeed. That's a great analogy. And it's so crucial to, challenge our preconceived notions and look at history and culture to truly understand a system.
Exactly. And while acknowledging its strengths, we also need to keep a critical eye on its challenges. It's not a perfect model, but it's definitely unique and tailored to the Chinese context.
Absolutely. I'm curious, though, if we were to apply some of these ideas in different settings, say in our own political systems, what lessons could we draw?
That's an intriguing question. I'd say one lesson is the importance of context-specific governance. Not every system can or should adopt the same approach. Value can sometimes lie in mixing methods to suit different layers of society.
Yeah. So rather than simply labeling a system as either democratic or autocratic, we might aim for a more thoughtful synthesis that addresses various real-world challenges.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that governance is complex and labels can be limiting. The Chinese model teaches us that legitimacy might come from effectiveness and material results as much as from electoral processes.
Right. Yet, one must argue, isn't there a danger in embracing efficiency over individual liberties? There's a risk we might overlook issues like personal freedoms.
That's a fair critique, and it's important to acknowledge that every system has trade-offs. But the conversation here isn't about endorsing one system over another. It's about understanding the unique motivations and mechanisms behind China's approach.
Yes, I appreciate that perspective. It encourages deeper inquiry rather than a knee-jerk dismissal based on Western ideals.
Exactly. And by shifting our focus to how systems function in their own historical and cultural context, we can learn a lot. It's kind of like reading between the lines of a well-worn historical manuscript.
Right on. This discussion definitely makes you rethink the usual narrative. It's not about Beijing conquering the globe, but rather about governance that prioritizes internal stability and prosperity.
Yes, and that very point challenges the prevalent Western narrative. Instead of trying to fit China into our familiar labels, it invites us to see a more complex political tapestry.
Absolutely. And that, in turn, opens up the possibility for more constructive dialogue about governance in our own societies.
Exactly. It reminds us that the best systems often emerge from real world demands and historical evolution, not from abstract ideals alone.
Yeah, I like that idea. A political ecosystem that grows organically rather than being designed from scratch.
Right, it's almost like nature itself. Each part of the system adapts over time, balancing internal needs with external realities.
And so, when we look at China, instead of jumping to conclusions, we should appreciate this intricate evolution of governance.
Absolutely. It's about embracing complexity and resisting the urge to oversimplify. That's the real lesson from Professor Bell's insights.
Right. I couldn't agree more. It's a reminder for all of us to look deeper than the headlines and simplistic narratives.
Well said. Whether we agree with every aspect or not, the conversation forces us to re examine our assumptions and remain open to different models of political legitimacy.
Absolutely. And that's a conversation worth having, one that challenges, enlightens, and ultimately helps us better understand our own political landscapes.
Right. So as we wrap up, let's remember that systems evolve and deep historical and cultural contexts matter. Next time you see a blanket statement about China's ambitions, think about the nuances and complexities behind that idea.
Yeah, thanks for this engaging discussion. It's been a real eye-opener on how broad and diverse political systems can be. Until next time, keep questioning and exploring and stay curious.